Hello everyone, my name is Laura Wells and I would like to start our program today by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land of which we are all tuning in from. We pay our respects to their elders past and present, and I extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islanders peoples here today. And for those of you tuning in from overseas, we extend that respect as well to the traditional owners of the land where you are coming from. I am tuning in to you today from Boonderee country of the Yuin people on the beautiful south coast of New South Wales. I'm very lucky to be down here. I would also like to welcome our guest of honour, the Honourable Trevor Evans, Assistant Minister for Waste Reduction and Environmental Management. And I would like to welcome our beautiful B-Cycle members, Libby Chaplin, CEO, and Greg Morville, Chair of B-Cycle. And welcome to our panellists, who you will be formally introduced to later, Michael Brendel, Catherine Hull, and Professor Veena Sarjwala. Now, hundreds of millions of batteries help to power our lives every year until they run flat and we throw them away. Chances are every battery that you've ever used is sitting in landfill, leaking toxic materials into the environment, or sitting loosely rolling around in that drawer of random crap we all seem to have at home, but no one ever really talks about. Most batteries have always been recyclable, but until now, the infrastructure wasn't in place to collect and recycle single-use or rechargeable batteries like the alkaline or lithium batteries. There were simply very few places to take them. B-Cycle is a national battery recycling scheme bringing people, businesses and communities together to make sure that no used battery goes to waste, providing simple, convenient drop-off points right across the country. So today we will be hearing from a number of experts and B-Cycle leaders, learning all about B-Cycle, how it works, why it's important, and the benefits to Australia, the economy and the environment. So come with us on a deep dive into the battery world. I'm sure you will learn lots of interesting things. I have already. But for now, I would like to hand over to our guest of honour, the Honourable Trevor Evans.
Every year, Australians buy enough batteries to circle the globe twice. Of course, batteries are only going to play an even larger role in our lives going forwards. So today I'm very excited to announce an Australian national recycling scheme for used batteries. It's called B-Cycle. It's been created by the Battery Stewardship Council and it's supported by a $1 million grant from the federal government. We've also given it our tick of approval and accredited the scheme, meaning that it has strong environmental and recycling credentials. Now, all of us can take our used batteries, whether it's AA batteries or button batteries or power tool batteries, to thousands of collection points right across the country. The collection points are at places like Total Tools, Woolworths, Aldi, Officeworks, Bunnings, and soon Coles. After those batteries are dropped off, they're collected, recovered, and recycled into the next generation of valuable products, supporting both the economy, local jobs, and our environment. The scheme is being paid through levies paid by battery importers, and this is a commendable collaboration between industry players right up and down the supply chain. To find your local drop-off points, go to bcycle.com.au.
Thank you, Minister. The strong support that you and your ministerial colleague, Susan Lee, have given to the Battery Stewardship Council through the establishment of a clear stewardship policy backed up with funding and strategic interventions has been an important factor in all of us being here today. The Council has also received strong support from all state and territory governments, led by Queensland, which provided an important early investment. On behalf of the Board of BSC and our management team, I welcome our members, B-Cycle participants and various supporters to this launch. Batteries are such an integral part of our modern world. They underpin the technologies used for the digital economy, electronic convenience devices, sustainable transport systems, and energy storage, which is essential in our shift to net zero emissions. This use of batteries is projected to grow exponentially in the coming years. However, no matter what size or chemistry, all batteries have a fixed life, and each of us has had to decide what to do with the dead battery. Throw it in a drawer or in a jar in the garage, put it in a waste bin, or dispose of it in a recycling bin. Ultimately, most have ended up in landfill, and given that most of a battery can be recycled, it shows how wasteful our society can be. Given the phenomenal growth projections of battery use, if we don't move to a circular economy now, then the impacts on human health and the environment will be hugely damaging and costly for future generations. In developing B-Cycle, our goal is to get dead batteries out of our homes, offices and factories and safely into a verifiable recycling stream. To achieve this goal, we spent quite some time consulting with industry, governments and community organisations to understand why batteries weren't being recycled properly and to listen to their issues, their concerns and ideas. Our high level of commitment to consultation was fundamental to our approach, given that there's not a single household or company in Australia that won't be impacted in some small way by a battery stewardship initiative. We chose to base B-Cycle on a levy and rebate model, which is designed to provide an accessible collection system based on leveraging a diverse range of industry, community and government initiatives, and to build confidence for investment to expand a domestic battery recycling industry. This is a very important and exciting day for all of us, and there are many who have been involved and demonstrated their leadership to get to this point. Significantly, we commenced B-Cycle with a very high level of participation from across the battery value chain and an extensive national network of drop-off points. We also know from market surveys that B-Cycle meets the primary need of consumers for ready access to a safe and verifiable battery recycling system. Today marks the beginning of the next steps on the journey to achieve a circular economy for batteries in Australia. There are those who still believe it is someone else's responsibility to deal with their end-of-life products, or that it is okay to send recyclable materials to landfill after one use. Therefore, our objectives over the coming year are to secure the full participation of all importers into the scheme, including e-bikes and e-scooters, to expand the network of drop-off points, to lead best practice in safety and improve the value of recovered materials, and to finalise consultations on the best arrangements for electric storage, electric vehicle, energy storage batteries, as well as embedded batteries in products such as toys. Australia used to be a world leader on many environmental fronts, but we have now fallen behind. A major factor has been the growth of the global market and our willingness to become a technology taker, often with the acceptance of lower environmental standards. Whilst global markets are here to stay, I don't believe that most Australians are prepared to accept such an outcome. The last few years have demonstrated the folly of not developing our domestic industrial base. Let's not waste this opportunity to show the world what we can really do when we put our minds to the problem. With B-Cycle as a firm foundation, we now have an opportunity to build an appropriate and relevant domestic battery recycling industry based on the principles of a circular economy that all Australians can be proud of for decades to come. It is now my pleasure to pass to Libby Chaplin, our fantastic CEO of BSC, to launch B-Cycle.
Thanks, Jerry. And thank you, Minister Evans, for your support and encouragement over the past 18 months. B-Cycle has evolved because many of you here today have, like us, believed that solving the battery waste problem was a priority. For Jerry and I, this has been a labour of love, which we've navigated together over the past 4 years, and his enthusiasm and clear thinking have been invaluable in this process. I'm also pleased and proud to acknowledge the hard work and dedication and professionalism shown by my team, Brett Buckingham, Jade Barnaby and Kirsten Krause, who together with Jerry and I have shaped a program that does justice to our shared mission to create positive change in the world. There are many people I would like to thank who over the past few years have played an important role in shaping the scheme. So please bear with me while I give them a quick roll call. Helen Lewis, Rose Reid, Kylie Hughes, David Stout, Peter Bruce, Spiro Callis, Ian McAllister, Nick Florin, Andrew McKenzie, Ben Pritchard, John Gertzakis, Carl Smith, George Kirchner, Elaine Vassart, Benny Vandenstein, Andy Jackson, Troy Rowe, Mark Smith, Chris Tangy, Adrian Griffin, Janet Leslie, Jag Rowe, Catherine Hole, Helen Jarman, Susan Teards, Ruth Barker, Barbara Killen, Simon Cox, Mike Brendel, Andrew Dodson, Steve Draper, David Pattinson, Mark Bullish, Mario Sumac, and Frank Inbershield. A long list, but each of you have had an important influence in the design of the scheme, so a heartfelt thanks to you. Importantly, we've not always agreed, but the outcomes of those discussions have enabled us to be here today, launching a scheme that is innovative in its approach and which will have far-reaching impacts on battery recovery, industry development, safety, and innovation. I also want to thank our contractor partners who have become part of our close-knit team. Active Group, The Bravery, and the Republic of Everyone. The creative team have really delivered on the B-Cycle brand, and thanks also to Cameron James, who is the star of our video. I also want to thank our ambassador, Laura Wells, who is assisting us to bring B-Cycle to the public. Our guiding light has been to create a scheme that would radically increase battery collection and recycling in a safe and transparent manner. With close collaboration with everyone across the whole value chain, and by partnering with experts near and far, we have sought to understand best practice and to explore what it would mean on the ground. Along the way, we've engaged with many, some of whom were huge skeptics, but it's often those difficult discussions and the hard questions that have led to the most interesting aspects of the B-Cycle scheme. On a personal level, it's been an incredible journey to have been able to take the directive from industry at our meeting in February 2018, almost 4 years ago to the day, to shape the concept into a distinctive stewardship model, to today, where we are launching an industry-led scheme which will give Australians across the country access to safe battery recycling options. While today is an incredible milestone, it's also an exciting beginning on which we can build, adapt and improve to address the day-to-day challenges we are sure to face as we move from concept to reality. Significantly, our unique leveraging model, which we're able to launch today with more than 2,300 drop-off locations across the country and a further 1,200 regional locations being added in the coming weeks, with thousands more in the pipeline. Over the coming months, we will also be looking forward to beyond handheld batteries to build capacity and methodologies that will also apply to the electric vehicle and energy storage batteries. So it's time to get real. In Australia, we currently only recycle 10% of consumer batteries, compared with 50, 60, and 70% in other countries. So we definitely have room to improve. So let's all stop right here and now, and each of us just reflect on how many batteries we use. Look around you on your desk, think about what's at home, in the kitchen, the bathroom, the garage, the shed, and the garden. Just think about how many batteries you rely on. But the thing is, when they stop working for us, when they are seemingly dead, the materials they contain are needed for future energy, and we can't afford to just throw them away. It's time for us all to draw a line in the sand and to become B-cyclers. On that note, I am proud to officially launch the B-Cycle scheme, and I'm excited to introduce you to the world of B-Cycle. We know you're going to love the B-Cycle story as much as we do, so please share our video with everyone.
Did you know that Aussie households currently have over 150 million loose and removable batteries floating around? That's roughly a lot per person. And 90% of these used or dead batteries end up as landfill, which corrode and leach elements like zinc, cobalt, and lithium into our soil and waterways. The good news is you can do some good and put a stop to this, because now you can recycle your batteries with B-Cycle, Australia's official battery recycling scheme. Try saying that 10 times fast. Battery recycling scheme. Batteries need to be kept out of reach from children at all times, and battery terminals need to be safely taped and then gently placed into accredited B-Cycle bins. B-Cycle is nationwide, with thousands of easy and convenient accredited B-Cycle drop-off points. For each recycled battery, up to 95% of its materials can be remade into things we use every day, like metal tools, computer parts, tyres, even new batteries. What? So head to bcycle.com.au to find your nearest drop-off location and to purchase new B-Cycle accredited batteries. B-Cycle. Give new life to dead batteries. Has anyone got any tape? I need tape to put it in the bin.
That's awesome. That's the first time I have seen that video and I love it. It just shows how easy this scheme is for people to do great things for the planet. I have worked in the area of waste recycling and consumer behaviour change for over a decade. And as an ambassador of B-Cycle, it's so nice to be supporting a national scheme that came about under its own guise. It's developed by passionate people who realise there is a huge space for change rather than people having to lobby the government for it. So it is a very refreshing launch to such a positive campaign that can have huge impacts environmentally and can be sustained well into the future. I don't put my name to anything lightly, so working with this B-Cycle scheme has, it's really opened my eyes to see how the power of passionate people, as we've seen Libby and the team have just done such a great job, and Libby rattled off all those names of amazing people that have been hard at work on this. So congratulations to everyone. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to all of our panelists today. We've got Libby Chaplin, CEO of B-Cycle, who you've just heard from. Libby has particular specialty in sustainable management of electronics, from design and manufacture through to responsible end of life and supply chain management. And she's been instrumental in achieving the ACCC authorisation for this scheme. We also have Michael Brendel, who is the Group Managing Director for TTI Australia and New Zealand, which is Milwaukee, and has been passionate about sustainability and contributing to a circular economy throughout his career. We have Professor Veena Sahajwala, Director of Sustainable Materials Research and Technology at the Smart Centre at the University of New South Wales. She is a leading expert in the field of recycling science, and that's right up my nerdy alley. I love that, Professor Veena. And we have Catherine Hull, the CEO of Australian Battery Recycling Initiative, who promotes a circular economy for batteries. Catherine has expertise in policy and strategy, advising across public and private sectors to influence positive environmental and social outcomes. So welcome, team. Now, our panellists would love to answer questions during question time after the panel, so please feel free to pop in any questions to the Q&A chat window and we'll hopefully get to them a little later. All right, I think, Libby, we will start with you as CEO of B-Cycle. Can you tell us more about B-Cycle and what it actually means for the everyday Australian?
Yeah, I thought I would give you a little bit of background first. Thanks, Laura. Great to have you on board too. I think that I'd like to start by just describing the scheme a little bit. It's not actually a recycling service in itself. It's a network of over 100 organisations across Australia, independently accredited by the Battery Stewardship Council. This means that consumers, government and industry can be assured that the batteries being dropped off for recycling are collected and recycled in a safe and sound manner. They can also be sure that the batteries they're buying are from brands who are part of the solution. It's a stewardship scheme. So what is stewardship? It really means that everybody who makes, sells, uses, collects or recycles batteries takes responsibility for doing so in a safe and responsible manner, ensuring that those batteries circle back around for multiple lives. And that's really what B-Cycle is all about. B-Cycle begins with a levy on battery imports, which is passed on in the price of a battery at retail. These funds are then used to establish safety and traceability standards and to provide rebates for accredited collectors and recyclers, and also to enable us to provide oversight so we can verify that the batteries being collected are done so in a safe and environmentally sound manner. When it comes to batteries, we have relied on a traditional linear economy model where we buy batteries, use them up, and then when we're done with them, we throw them in the rubbish. End of story. But that is not actually the end of story. Used batteries nearly always retain some charge and some contain potentially volatile materials. By dropping used batteries in the garbage or general recycling bins where they are crushed and compacted, we're creating real hazards and the potential for fires in general waste and recycling trucks. But it doesn't have to be this way. The way forward is to create a circular economic model where the materials in the product, particularly batteries, are collected through a dedicated battery collection system, recovered and returned. And those products become part of the original products or new products. B-Cycle makes it easy for everyone to play their part, and we will continue to grow the network so that more Australians have accessible battery recycling options. For now, it's really about getting the word out. So we appreciate everybody's support here today, particularly Laura, who's now jumped on our team as well. So thank you so much. And I'd like to hand over to the next panellist.
Thank you, Libby. For me, listening to B-Cycle and understanding, like I have worked in this space, as I said, for quite a while, but knowing now about the safety aspects of batteries and the fact that they can cause a lot of fires, not only with the environmental toxins, but the safety aspect is really, I think, eye-opening and will change a lot of consumer behaviour in that space too, now that they know, we're getting the word out that you can't just throw them into landfill. It's very, very dangerous. So I think that B-Cycle is such a great educational tool for a lot of people to really change consumer behaviour as well. So it's great.
And we really know that consumers want to recycle their batteries. About 91% that said they'd like to have a scheme like ours. So we're excited to bring it to them.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so happy to be involved. Thank you. I think we might go over to Mike now. Now, Mike, batteries play a critical role in powering our everyday lives. And that working with Milwaukee, I know because I've got a whole bunch of Milwaukee tools in my garage I used to renovate my house this year. But with new and amazing applications for batteries constantly appearing, how is industry getting involved?
Well, Laura, you're spot on. I mean, the industry has changed dramatically over the years. And if you consider, it wasn't that long ago that, even in the power tool industry, 50% of the market was AC, 240 volt. You had this lead running off the end. Today, the power tool industry is around about 95% cordless. And that's because of the innovation that's come through and the technology advancements that have happened within batteries are just incredible. And today there are products that can run off a battery that, 5 years ago you never imagined possible. So what that does, it really just changes the game as far as the volume of cordless products on the market. We're seeing it in so many different areas that the advancements are just incredible. So with that, it's really critical that we do come up with a scheme to collect, because these batteries don't last forever, and the last thing we want to do is see them in landfill. And we do know, talking to our users, because part of our mission is to improve the lives of our user, and that comes from an environmental standpoint as well. So if you consider how broad is this spectrum going? It wasn't that long ago, petrol products were all, or outdoor products were all petrol, I should say, or predominantly. And now the technology is advancing at such a rate. And it changes the game a little bit too, from the emissions that come out of petrol products is staggering, and you convert to a cordless product. So you've got an advantage there. But as these things expand, it's so critical that as an industry, we really get behind how we recycle these things. We have an army of people out there that are constantly talking to users, and, as Libby said, they really do want a solution, but we've got to make a solution easy for them, because it's so easy. I mean, I'm sure if we asked any one of the 205 on this call right now, when a battery went flat on your remote or anything at home, what did you do with the battery? Did you think, I'm going to recycle this? Or did you just throw it in the bin? And I'm sure there's a lot of guilty people out there. And I'm the same. Look, we've done it ourselves in the past because you just thought, what is the solution here? So to see B-Cycle become a part of this big program that we're working together on is just phenomenal. And I think that, we'll be able to change the game. It does take time, but getting all industry involved is really a critical element of this. So it's quite an exciting place to be in.
Absolutely. I think I'm like you. I thought I was a somewhat woke individual, but I've definitely thrown batteries into landfill in my previous life. So this has made it so easy for everyone to do. But I think the thing I love about this the most is that it's industry led, and people like yourself, Michael, and all of these big companies are coming together to say, no, it shouldn't just be about consumer. And
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We started a program a long time ago we call Future Forward, but to join that into B-Cycle means that we can now do much more with it. And Future Forward is about the power tool game out in the industry, and how we get people to right from TAFE schools, apprentices, all those sort of things where you start, because they're all keen for a solution.
Absolutely. It's great. I actually can't praise this scheme enough. And it's not just because I'm an ambassador. That's why I'm an ambassador. Well, batteries have always been recyclable, as some of us have mentioned. But Catherine, why has it taken so long to introduce a scheme like B-Cycle? And how will this make a difference for consumers?
Thanks, Laura. So ABRI is really pleased and excited to be part of B-Cycle's journey as an industry association representing a broad range of companies, and that includes companies at the battery manufacturing end as well as the recycling end. And as Mike's discussed, all parts of the battery value chain are interested in battery recycling. The introduction of B-Cycle is critical. It will support safe circular economy solutions for recycling of all battery types. And it will provide a launch pad for a step change in our battery recycling capacity in Australia, which is pretty exciting. We have a great track record in recycling lead acid car batteries, which is kind of up around 95%, and we do that locally. But as Libby has spoken about, at the other end of the scale, the mixed batteries and the lithium, we're down around the 10% level. So we've got a long way to go to get better. And this scheme is really important to contributing to that. So for all battery chemistries, we have collection, sorting or recycling capability, or some combination of those three in each state and territory across Australia. And it's now time to build our existing capacity to grow recycling rates, as I've mentioned, for lithium, alkaline, zinc, carbon, and other major battery types. And there's a lot of benefits to doing this: environmental, safety, and economic. Now, rough estimates suggest that for every 10,000 tonnes of batteries collected, that could be as much as 25 jobs. There's a reduction of fire risks in waste facilities and garbage trucks, and importantly in homes too, and a reduction of environmental damage from battery chemicals leaking into the environment. ABRI members have been working really hard to prepare for the scheme. I hear stories of doubling of sorting capacity, new larger premises, and brand new investments coming down the track. And there's also much talk of how we can better help regional and remote areas where transport costs are quite prohibitive. So establishing a scheme like B-Cycle takes a significant amount of work and commitment from all stakeholders, and ABRI would like to thank everyone for their help and contribution. And as we've heard from Trevor Evans today, the Commonwealth Government's been a strong supporter. It's the entire value chain, battery manufacturers, importers, retail outlets, councils, state governments, regulatory agencies, and collectors, sorters, and recyclers. I've used batteries which have all come together really collaboratively, and it's been great to see this project come to fruition. While I've only recently become part of that journey, I can see how hard all parties have worked to get to where we are today. Well-run and smooth operations do not happen overnight. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to batteries. As many people here today are likely to know, batteries come in all shapes and sizes. You also need to watch for the battery chemistry and packaging or casing. And I expect there's many people here, particularly if you've had kids, you know how frustrating it is when you've picked up the wrong battery pack in order to keep a child's toy running. This diversity of products, product uses and consumers makes it challenging and costly to recycle batteries, as different processes and techniques are required. And they keep changing as product design changes. And we've heard from Mike about what's happening in the tool industry. It's not only recovering and recycling the battery chemicals, but also the casing and other components in the battery. And as Battery Stewardship Council has found in its research, transport costs to get the batteries to recyclers can be prohibitive. So B-Cycle will enable accredited recycling parties to offset the costs and enable the industry confidence to invest in new infrastructure. This goes to Jerry's point about we're not being a technology taker, but we're actually developing some new and world-leading recycling technologies here in Australia. I spoke to Veena last year about work she's doing out of UNSW, and it's a pretty exciting space to be in. The scheme, importantly, has strong audit and reporting requirements to ensure the scheme's integrity. But it's not only the rebate that's important. The B-Cycle scheme helps streamline and centralise the collection process. This makes it easier for consumers to drop off batteries and for my recyclers to collect those batteries. Once they are collected, they can be sorted by chemistry, broken down, components separated, materials sent off in different directions for a variety of recycling and recovering processes. ABRI members strongly encourage consumers to use the B-Cycle scheme to drop off their batteries for collection and recycling. Participants, including my members, go through robust accreditation, reporting and auditing, as I've already mentioned, but I keep highlighting because it's so important to provide everyone with confidence that their batteries will go to recycling. And we'd also like to encourage consumers and participants interested in the scheme to buy batteries with the B-Cycle logo, as these batteries support the scheme. So it's not just the recycling end, it's very important that you also think about the products that you purchase, because they're the ones supporting the recycling at the end of life and reuse. So my sincere thanks to those battery companies participating in this scheme. Finally, a big shout out to Jerry, Libby, Jade and Brett for all the work you've done to establish the scheme. It's a pleasure working with you, and congratulations on the launch of B-Cycle. And I can look forward to working with you to support the scheme's success over the coming years. All the best, guys.
Thank you, Catherine. I mean, there was so much to unpack in there. The jobs, I mean, that's incredible with the amount of jobs that can be created through battery recycling alone. But also, I think the integrity of the scheme and making sure that, you know, things are actually getting recycled. We have seen other recycling schemes in the past, not batteries, but there's no integrity there. And then what consumers do think are getting recycled just don't get recycled. So I love this, and the products that come out of the end, the actual reuse of batteries and getting that back into the consumer's hands so that they can make smart choices. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. All right, well, let's move on to Professor Veena. She is our recycling expert, and Professor Veena, I would like to know exactly how do we recycle the materials in used batteries, because it sounds like there's a whole hell of a lot of them in there.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. That's absolutely an important question. And I want to first begin by congratulating Libby. This is an awesome adventure. And I think, Libby, hats off to you and the team. This is incredible. So I want to really acknowledge that. But I guess, Laura, coming back to your question, it's spot on, right? I mean, we've been hearing about all the different battery chemistries, different materials. We know they're all valuable, you know, whether we're talking about lithium-based batteries with all their different chemistries, because they then contain, you know, cobalt and so on. But then when you've got other batteries that might be rich in zinc and manganese and so on, And you might sort of wonder and say, well, what do we actually mean when we're talking about recycling, right? Let's kind of ask that deeper question. What we're really trying to do is use those materials, if you can possibly harvest them, for remanufacturing. That's really what we're talking about, because that value creation really comes down to whether these materials can be harvested in the right form, in the right chemistry, fit for purpose. So that's really the critical question here, whether we want to put them back into making new energy-related applications, different kinds of metals. All of these materials that are there are high value materials. So that's the other thing we need to recognize, extremely high value. And as a country, we can really see a future where we can be really clever and smart in the way we understand how do we get down to those micro level materials. And if they are really high value, we need to understand what these pathways are so we can manufacture those materials from our waste batteries, right? But it's not just, again, about saying, well, we're going to manufacture it and hope that somebody finds it useful. We're going to actually manufacture it so that we've designed it in the correct way so that it can deliver the right properties. It's no point making something if the end user at the other end for remanufacturing doesn't find it useful and fit for purpose, which means it's got to have the right structure and the right properties. So looking at different pathways of metals and oxides that we have in our hands, recognizing that we're already talking about many of the metals being in the many thousands of dollars per ton value, right? So, when you talk about things like lithium and cobalt and so on, very expensive materials. But then also with things like manganese and zinc, we know that we have access to these in our various zinc batteries. Can we actually produce zinc oxide and manganese oxide of the right structure? And so this is the connectivity at the micro level to be able to connect it back to actually creating the right outcomes. And this is where we can couple together recycling at the micro level. So this is what we're really talking about, micro recycling, fit for purpose for remanufacturing, and closing the loop on different kinds of materials is really the key goal. So the Australian Research Council, ARC, has supported research on micro recycling. We are, of course, leading the world and leading the charge. As Australians, we all need to be proud of that and want to acknowledge, of course, Australian businesses who are supporting, of course, the work that is underway today. And I can see jobs and new economic opportunities really coming our way.
Yeah, it's very incredible. There's a lot of opportunity just to come out of one type of waste stream, isn't there? And especially they're finite materials, a number of them too.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And I think, as we've heard time and time again, I mean, these are all important materials. They are fit for purpose. They provide a very important service. We've come a long way now with battery stewardship and all the fabulous work that Libby and her team have put in place. We are literally at that opportunity where we can start to monetize these materials. And that's really the key goal. If we are going to harvest economic value right here in Australia, we need to, of course, monetize it. And moving up that value chain is important, because the minute we start to create these highly functioning materials that we've talked about, we can actually start to be in the driver's seat, because these are valuable, they are finite materials, and keeping these materials in various loops, right here in Australia, actually delivers economic benefits to the country. So that whole sort of conversation around new jobs in the country, taking these resources that we've all paid for, right? I mean, we're all, purchasing these important products. So really taking that to that whole circularity, and that circular economy means that we're really harvesting those materials, putting them towards manufacturing. And I guess this is where emerging new technologies of microfactories can play a very important part. It allows us to really go after highly specialized materials and design them in a way that they are fit for purpose for many, many lives.
Yeah, it's so exciting. There's so much opportunity out there. And I love the fact that we're building this onshore. B-Cycle is helping Australia build this network in Australia without us having to send our waste to another country to deal with, because it's our waste and we should be dealing with it.
Absolutely. Imagine us being in the driver's seat, where we're the go-to place when people want to come to us for sustainable materials that have been produced ethically and in a way, as we've been hearing about, doing it in an environmentally responsible manner, in a safe manner. All of these things matter to everyone on this planet. And I think Australia can really be at the driver's seat in showing the world that we've got science, we've got technology, and we can really produce these sustainable materials. So in the longer term, for sustainability of our planet, this is so important that we can really lead and take a leading charge in both scientific and technological advances. So the crucial work that's being launched today, I think, is really going to enable us to do so much more with these valuable materials.
Mm-hmm. Well, that makes my inner nerdy environmentalist do a happy dance. I love this. Thank you everyone for chatting on the panel, but we are going to move into question time because we have lots of questions from everyone that's tuning in. I'm going to head over to Libby. We've got number one question for you. How do we get our hands on that great video?
So we're going to be making it available on social media. So if you get in touch with me or the team, then we can certainly make sure you have it.
Amazing. All right, everyone, you'll get your hands on it. Catherine, for you, the video really highlighted the need to tape over the battery terminals, and a few people have said it's the first time that they've heard this. How important is this, and is it going to be a part of the message to the public?
It's very important for battery safety, particularly to stop fires or other unintended consequences of putting your batteries back in. Yes, it is a bit of a hassle for the recyclers sometimes because they've got to pull all that apart. But in this space, you need to weigh up the benefits of all the actions, and definitely taping batteries is the preferred way to go. We're not the only scheme that asks people to do that. There's a number of people that do it. There's some great videos from some of my members. Apologies, that's my garbage truck going past. There's some great videos online and YouTube, very short and simple, that can show you how to do it or show you how to put together for button batteries. And Libby, I don't know if you wish to add any more about the advice that B-Cycle is publishing.
Yeah, I would like to actually. In the videos that we've been shooting, we've shown blue tape, but really that's just because you can't see clear tape in the videos. So if you could spread the word about just covering the terminal, so that's the part that connects with whichever product you're putting it into. Cover it with a bit of clear tape, and it makes all the difference.
It does.
Yeah.
I know, because I shot that video and I learned lots about battery taping and terminal taping. So the AA and AAAs around, so top and bottom terminals. The button batteries are really easy to do. Bit of tape on the bottom, tape on the top, put them in between. And your D batteries just straight over the top. It really is easy, and no masking tape as well, people. We want to see what batteries we're actually recycling. Very easy to do, and definitely a forward facing message to the public as well, Libby.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Okay, Mike, this is a question for you. How do you think B-Cycle will benefit business in both the short and the long term?
Well, I mean, it's definitely going to benefit for both, really. I mean, just like it takes a child, a village to raise a child, you need a whole bunch of like-minded organisations to work together collaboratively to ensure that we can have a really great outcome. No one can do this in isolation. And, if we can do that as a collective, then we're going to change the game significantly in attitudes of people. And that's the big one, really, just changing the attitudes of the user to sort of say, right, collect them and make sure we recycle them. So I think that this is going to really help across the board in that space.
Yeah, it ends up being quite easy to change consumer attitudes and behaviours, especially when you have a great system in place, and that makes it easy for them to do. And then that little change that they make then spurs on new habits to, protect the environment and create a better future. So, we've seen it done with plastic bags and keep cups and all of those great things. So there's no reason why batteries is the next big thing on people's list to check off and do the right thing with. I love it. I've got a question for Veena, and perhaps Libby might want to jump in as well, but we have a number of great entrepreneurs working in battery supply chain, chemical composition, battery health. How can we accelerate the hard work needed to truly advance this work? Is there a channel or series of working groups so that we can open to startups and founders who are contributors of value?
Yeah, really awesome question, Laura, and absolutely spot on. I think, to be able to recognize that there are multiple materials in it, in all these different kinds of batteries, we do need everyone to recognize that the scale at which you deliver these solutions have to be put into the context of what you're actually producing. So depending on, whether you're taking batteries that are rich in zinc, for instance, we've talked about all these different options. You've got to actually be clear on, as an entrepreneur, what are you making and what's the market value of those materials, right? So you need to know the form, the purity, the output that you're producing and what the market will pay for it. There may be that you're creating these, micro materials. And of course, creating micro materials is, again, as I was referring to earlier, fit for a particular purpose. But the market will pay the price depending upon the quality of the output that you want to create. So, it depends on the purity, depends on the quality of these materials, because bearing in mind, if they have to go back into their next lives of next application, you've now got to have a process or a system as an entrepreneur to be able to deliver an outcome that the next user or a manufacturer is prepared to pay for. So I'd always say that if you're an entrepreneur, the first thing you have to be able to do is understand, at what scale you're going to produce, and of course, the quality of the feedstock. So there's an opportunity. Yes, you can grow that in the longer term, but as a starting point, as the classical sort of business question always will be, the supply and of course the demand for the kinds of materials that you are making. So whether they might be high quality metals, right? And one might say, well, what is the scale at which I want to produce? There's a lot of cobalt that we know in our lithium cobalt oxides, for example, materials in our electrodes. How much of that can be harvested? And absolutely the opportunity is there. We were talking earlier about, where do people go globally to purchase these materials? If everyone in the world is looking for supply chains, and particularly if people want to focus on ethical, materials that are produced in an environmentally responsible manner, then through collaborative efforts, you want to be absolutely clear through partnerships with research organizations, understand those facts, so that you know exactly, what are the steps you're going to embrace, and of course the environmental consequences of your action. You don't want to kind of think about that after. Think about all of these questions up front, the value, the economic questions, and then the environmental, strategies that you're going to put in place as part of your business. So right from the beginning, you've got all of the critical questions answered, and you don't discover that there is a problem with something you might have embarked on after you've, perhaps put in a fair bit of hard work. So I'd say upfront, the best thing to do is look at collaborations, research collaborations. You don't have to be an expert in everything, right? I mean, there's a lot of good research work happening, and you can really go back and look at collaborations, ask the right questions, and think about how you might be setting up whatever it is that you want to set up in a way where you've considered all of these things. I mean, we know these are emerging new manufacturing opportunities. We've talked about onshoring, with our manufacturing capacity, lots of clever people in the country who can help with research, technology, machinery, equipment. There are lots of different bits. You don't have to solve all the battery problems yourself. So I'd encourage all entrepreneurs to jump on board. This is the next sustainable materials revolution that we're embarking on. And I think that's the way to go.
Well, you've heard it here first, folks. Professor Veena, the next revolution. I like it.
I totally agree. It's all about bringing the B-cycling community together, right? And we're definitely keen on working with all of the members, and also the Australian Battery Recycling Initiative. They obviously have a lot of on-the-ground practical experience, and researchers like Veena, but there's others as well across the country. A number of universities are really working hard in this space, the Future Battery Industries CRC, Cooperative Research Centre. All of us are really looking to this space. And I think the key to really overcoming some of these hurdles is to engage from a very early stage, whether you be from the minerals end of the spectrum right through to manufacturing or recycling. We kind of have to have those conversations all together to make sure that it all fits and we really can close that circle.
Yeah, it's all about closing the loop. I love this. I've got a question for you, Libby. Can you tell us about the opportunities for electric vehicle battery recycling?
Definitely. It's obviously where the volumes are going to come from into the future. We see this as an important priority and we'll be working hard over the next few months to really be consulting with industry. We're having a meeting with Bruce Godfrey in the next couple of weeks to put a strategy in place, continue our discussions with the Clean Energy Council and the Electric Vehicle Council to see how our model, which I think adapts well, can be tweaked to make sure that it will easily fit the electric vehicle and energy storage sectors, because a key piece really into the future is making sure that we work in that space. And I would also say that the work we're doing now with smaller batteries is essential for laying the groundwork to having a solution for those sectors into the future. Bina mentioned reuse. I think that's obviously crucial when you start looking at electric vehicles in particular. We need to understand what the issues are and make sure that we have good safety practices around that. So there is some thinking to do, but it's no doubt that B-cycling will have to come to those sectors as well.
Absolutely. And Libby, I'm actually going to stick with you for this question as well. If taping for the batteries is taping the batteries, still needed if fireproof storage bags are used?
So once they're in the bags, it's not necessary, but you have to get them to that place. And I think in general, it is a better practice, even within a bag, not to have a fire. We'd really rather not have fire. So, the more protective we can be, the better, really.
Okay, great. Professor Vena, what do they do with the contaminants? Is there a byproduct that creates a risk for the environment or public when we're recycling batteries?
Yeah, look, all of these are really important questions that require that deep understanding of fundamental science, because like I was saying before, right, when you embark on any of these things, you've got to have that full picture. You can't just say, look, I'm going after this particular element or this particular metal, and I'm not going to worry about everything else, right? You can't cause more problems down the chain. So what you've got to remember is that in any of these methodologies that I've been talking about, when you're isolating different kinds of materials, whether they are metals or oxides, you've got to also be aware of both your main product that you might be making, but you've got to then be aware of what else is the residue that's left behind, right? So you might have a combination of, zinc and manganese, for instance, in your batteries. And if that is the case, the best outcome, of course, is that can you harvest them and isolate them, like zinc oxide, manganese oxide, in a way that you've produced that value-added material, and you've made sure that you've then got that ability to deal with every bit of residue that's left behind in a way that you've, in fact, made it safe, so that you don't want to be left behind with something that's active and reactive and all of that. You want to make sure that any residue that you have is, of course, safe, and it's not going to, of course, react. So the best thing you can do, of course, with all of these pathways to get your output is to make sure you understand what kinds of materials you're getting out, including doing a proper chemical analysis on not just your main products, but also your co-products, and really asking for what are the pathways to monetize and value add every bit of element or compound that you can get your hands on. And this is where collaboration comes in, right? So you can go back and figure out in a collaborative manner what are the best outcomes from a safety and a sustainability point of view.
Absolutely. I think we might have to wrap up our panel discussion there, even though there are so many more questions and you guys are a minefield of knowledge. We can't get to it all, unfortunately, but there will be opportunities for anyone that has questions that the B-Cycle team can get back to you. Thank you all so much for tuning in and being part of our amazing B-Cycle launch today. Thank you to the great panelists that have been here, and to Jerry and to the Honourable Trevor Evans for joining us as well. I'm sure you've all been filled with a hell of a lot of knowledge, and also a call to action to make sure that we properly recycle our batteries and put them back into that circular economy to create a cleaner, safer future together. Everything will be supplied, readings will be supplied, presentations, the videos, and you can call, any media can call out and reach out to the Bravery for any additional questions. And right now, I would like to close out with a few words from our global sponsors. Thank you everyone for joining the launch of B-Cycle.
Batteries are the most important thing we can do to get off of fossil fuels. And as a consequence, we need to manage them at end of life to make sure that they don't worsen our commitment to circular economy and to get rid of climate change.
Well, the primary reason for responsibly managing these batteries is that in certain cases, batteries could have heavy metals like cadmium and mercury, and they of course present an environmental risk if improperly disposed.
What really impresses me about the Australian program is how it's involved so many stakeholders in building the specifics. It's not just the battery industry, it's not just retailers, it's not just the government, it's all interested parties combining together to build a very integrated program to ensure its success. Battery stewardship establishes a much clearer ownership of how to manage products at the end of life, in this case, batteries. Without this in place, our current waste and recycling system simply could not handle the type of materials that batteries contain.
What is important that if you have recycled material coming from the portable batteries, that you can use that material in Australia and put it back into the economy. As a conclusion, I would say to Australian BCS, you are on the right track. Keep going, improve systems. Think that you cannot have one solution fit all. Try to be inventive, innovative, work together with authorities, work together with your industrial partners. That will bring sustainability. The business will improve, your image will improve, for sure. The profession as such, because of increased skills and increased education, you will step up.
Gosh, guys, it's been a long time in making, but you've really developed a wonderful program. Best of luck to you. We're all cheering for you here.
Lastly, I want to congratulate B-Cycle on the launch of their program. I wish you the very best going forward. Recognize there will be many challenges you will face over the next few years, but I'm confident the program will be a big success. So again, best of luck.